Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's general Q&A live stream. I am your host, Mods Sarnie, and I'm joined by the wonderful mods Squid, Ash, and Kirby. How is everyone doing? We'll start with you, Mod Squid. How's it going?
All good, thanks. Yeah, I've been working on some exploratory design for new returning player experience stuff. Early stages, so nothing to talk about yet, but yeah, that's keeping me busy.
Awesome stuff. Mod Ash, how's it going with you?
Doing okay, thanks. Ran into some trouble putting the poll out this afternoon, but the tech staff very kindly fixed it for us. Just some trouble with connections from some server moving they've been doing recently. Got that open in the end, and the players be voting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ash. And finally, Kirby, how is it going?
That's doing pretty good. I helped get the birthday event out this week, and shout out to the Reddit user Dr. Mike Orksbig, intentional space left there, who found the Rickroll I put in, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few threads popping up on that now. It's a good little addition. Very good.
Like, at some point, people have to realise if we're putting Easter eggs in our games, it's just going to be a Rickroll. At some point, you have to realise what you're getting yourself into.
I mean, yeah, what there been now, 3 or 4 different Rickrolls at the moment, I think. If I'm right, if my memory serves me right. But yeah, they'll definitely. I imagine there'll be more at some point. I mean, it's a tradition.
When there was a Twitch Plays Old School account knocking about in the game, I used to just PM it the lyrics to that song occasionally because it couldn't stop me. There's no way of stopping it.
Oh, awesome. Cool. We originally had Mod Aiza planned to come on to answer some of your PvP related questions following the recent PvP arena blog. However, unfortunately, he's not able to come on stream today due to some sickness. So we'll try to answer the PvP questions as best we can. But if we can't, we'll arrange for some written answers in the next update of the PvP blog instead. So before we get into the general Q&A, let's go through some announcements. First off, !poll 76. Poll 76 has been updated and is now live in game. Read all about it in the Poll 76 blog, and remember to cast your vote before the poll closes on the 22nd of February. !PvP Arena. The Caridian Emir has been made aware of illicit activity going on in the glorious old battlegrounds known as the Duel Arena. Check out the proposed concept for the revamped arena, including tournaments, rankings, and rewards. Game update. This week's game update brings Old School's 9th birthday event and a Rickroll. Check out all of the info on this event, including these gnarly new desert skis, along with all of the latest changes and fixes. And finally, if you missed last week's stream, you can use !stream summary, as we had our very first lore live stream. We talked about all the processes of developing quests, Gods in Future Quests, and of course the Dorgshan Quest series. In case you missed it, we have a handy transcript under that command. Awesome stuff. So we've got some UGC. We'll see if we can go through it in the end, but there are a lot of questions to get through, so we might as well just jump in. The first question we have is, when can we expect the Android Open Beta? So I know a lot of people have been asking about this, and we are happy to announce that Android Open Beta is going live to players on the 28th of February. So not next Monday, but the Monday after that. It's actually going into the game on Game Update next week, but only visible to staff for testing purposes during that time. On Monday the 28th, we'll open it up to players so that you can try out all the cool features and let us know your feedback. More details will be in the Game Update news post next week about how you can get involved, including where you'll be able to leave your feedback. We apologise for the delay on it, as we know we expected to start in late January, but things happened and they got pushed back, but it is coming soon. Question 2, when can we expect the Raids free rewards blog? If things line up, you can expect them next week. So that is the goal. I've been working on that behind the scenes, so yeah, next week. Number 3, any timeline for the Group Ironman post-launch improvements? These include updates to POH and making specific items tradable within a Group Ironman team.
If I may, the Group Ironman work was done actually a bit of a while ago now, but there's been a bit of a queue for things coming out because so many other projects going out as well, and also it is queued legitimately behind more of the wilderness blog stuff that we promised before. I expect you'll be seeing that over the start of the first couple of weeks of March. Although I should emphasise the bit where about them exchanging untradeable items, that was not in the poll in the end, and I'm afraid it's not part of the update. It was something we were interested in, and we got some good feedback about what's suitable, what's not suitable, but for the moment that is not something that's coming to the game. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Ash. The next question we have is, I'm an Ironman, and this week I spent a considerable amount of time trying to kill the Kalphite Queen. I found it frustrating that if a main hits it while I'm doing it, I don't get the kill credit. This makes it nearly impossible to do during peak hours. Do you have any news on the possible Ironman instances? We have discussed this as a team, and it's something we would like to offer. However, there's no agreed or dedicated time frame as of yet. We will be discussing tomorrow's community feedback session, so hopefully we can share some more on that soon. And the next question, I think we should just go into the PvP arena questions next. Yeah, let's do that. Right, so the next question we have is from Raids Monkey Ideas, love the name. Have you considered a delayed payout of rewards on a weekly basis? For example, reward points are accumulated throughout the week, but paid out after the weekly reset.
The team quite liked that idea. The idea, I think, being that since botting has often been a problem in these things, and with the best will in the world, the support team's not yet been able to catch them in real time. If you're earning the points, but you don't get access to spend them until like next week, then if you're a botter, then perhaps you've been removed from the game by then. Hopefully. Of course, there's a slight drawback, which is that if you are a legit player, you have a fight, you get some points, you might reasonably want your dopamine hit and your rewards right now, rather than having to wait wait till next week to get the good stuff. One thing we thought we could do was split the difference, where you get half the points now, get some of those rewards to you already, and the other half are held back until next week or something, so that it still helps somewhat with keeping the rule enforcement side of it. So that's one way it could go. I don't think it's been decided for sure, but we did see the idea and we did quite like it.
I'm just imagining that massive dopamine hit you get on Monday or whenever the reset day ends up being, where you've fought in 100 battles during the week and then suddenly you get this massive cash in, get all of the items.
At the very least, I'd hate to give them a thing where all the rewards were not going to be available for a week after it came out. It's that's the kind of thing where people don't want to do it very much. The prestige of being the first person out there with the rewards is real sometimes. Anyway, hopefully we can get the effect and still have some immediate sugar rush.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ash. The next question we have is, can you talk a bit about the Amulet of Souls design philosophy? Why did you decide this type of reward, and are you going to proceed with Amulet of Souls in version 2 of the PvP Arena blog?
I got the dev to explain this one a bit more to me. Seems the thinking was that it was meant to give more incentive to, take risks and be on low health and make a difference to people with Durocs, as I understand it. Now, clearly that's not something people were looking for. Seen it nicely compared to soul splittable things. I do not expect that will be in the next draft of the blog. Not exactly sure when the next draft of the blog is due. I mean, staff sickness is a thing, as you've heard, but I don't expect to see the amulet in it next time. And probably not that Thor potion either. There's been feedback in all directions on that particular one. And while we're interested in, things that could modify binding, maybe modifying the immunity, if not the bind itself, for now, I do not think that will be in the blog.
Awesome stuff. All right. The next question we have is from Berserker. Why are tradable PVM-based ornament kits tied to PvP-based content? Does this not promote illegitimate gameplay the same way it was before? Untradable kits purely for prestige seems a better fit in my opinion, or at least kits for item used in PvP situations.
I understand some of those kits do turn up. Those items do turn up in PvP builds from time to time, but we'd be able to take other requests if you'd rather have different items ornamented. I think the Elder Maul was one request. Also, trying to remember if it was ancestral. Certainly, there's some other things that might get into the list for ornamenting that might feel more suited to PvP. As for them being tradable, that'll probably change. The usual concerns about content attracting gold farmers. I understand the hope had been that these items, being purely cosmetic, wouldn't be going for the mega bucks and therefore wouldn't be all that appealing to a gold farmer. But players right, it would be safer not to have those tradable. Does mean that people using the content won't be getting anything lucrative at all. But I see why you have that concern. I think they will likely end up being untradable.
On the other hand, if they are untradable, there is a certain prestige then around having them in the first place, so...
There's that.
Yeah, very, very fair point.
And also, frankly, if items are not solely for use in PvP, like you end up with Armadillo kit and Bandos kit that you might use in something that isn't PvP, well, maybe somebody will come to the arena to get that stuff who isn't a regular PvPer already, or somebody who likes doing multiple kinds of things across the game. I don't see that the rewards have to be restricted. It's just a cosmetic. I don't see that the items would have to be restricted in that way. By the way, there's been some ambiguity. I've had players asking, why would you only be able to use these cosmetic items in PvP? That's not actually the case. The cosmetic redecorated stuff can be used anywhere. It's a more functional, the new kit, the new armor that's for use only in PvP.
Sure, we stated it in the blog as well, if I'm not mistaken, that how that ornament kit works on death and stuff. So, you can use it everywhere.
Big blog. I can understand people having the odd question to clarify.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Ash. Beratot asks, will the ranking system be an ELO rating system? I noticed nowhere does it say you'll lose rank by losing, so I'd be afraid the game will confuse players who are really good with players that simply played a lot.
You certainly will lose rank by losing. Sorry if the blog didn't mention that bit. I do not think RuneScape can currently do a mathematically precise ELO system, but you've seen, I think from Berthorpe Game Stream, that where the rank changes from a win or a loss depend on who you were against and the difference between you. I would expect something akin to that, with the possibility that if you keep having a streak, your rank change will be accelerated so as to get you towards a tier where you ought to be, so that you don't just keep poning noobs while being amazing forever.
And minor nitpick, it's not ELO rating system, it's ELO rating system. It's named after a man. Please don't capitalise the L and the O. Minor nitpick, but it annoys me to no end.
I didn't know that. That's a nice little bit of trivia. Thank you, Kirby. All right, awesome stuff. All right. Wizzy Rolf asks, will there be tournaments with entry fees?
I gather there will not be, due to concerns about how that could be interpreted as a form of gambling.
They have entry fees, they just don't have a prize. Money sinks.
Spend to spend to spend, yeah. Right. The next question we have is from GVTO. What kind of PKing are you trying to promote with the PvP arena? The way it's currently proposed is a weird mix of edge style. No overheads, no mage, PKing, and hybrid PKing. Picking stats is a really weird way to approach this.
As I understand it, the vision there was to give you some choices that would be reasonably evenly matched against somebody who's got a different selection. If somebody had the choice of, fully maxed, and somebody else decided to go against them on, I don't know, a low stats pure build or something, it wouldn't be a particularly even match. Whereas by giving some choices for the variety, but that you've got a plausible chance against your opponent, whatever choice they've made, I think that was the intention. I may have misunderstood that. It certainly wasn't trying to... it's not like whoever picked those stats was trying to write down how berserkers defined and just got it wrong. I think it was an intention to give you variety that matched against all the other choices. Now, obviously people seem more interested in fighting on the traditional builds. Fine. I believe what will be done instead will stick to traditional builds, but potentially switch which build is in use at any given time. So perhaps 1 week fights will be max mains, another week will be Zerker week, another week will be one Def Pure week. That could be one way of going about it. Haven't seen the next draft of the blog yet myself, but that would be one way of having the variety, having the traditional builds, and not splitting people between all the choices so that the number of people who want to fight in the arena is further diluted by the ones who want to be on this kind of build at any given time. Because the best way in the world is works better when there's decent traffic. If it's already split by different types of build as well, I can only assume that's not going to help. So people may need to compromise on what sort they want to use on any given time. Maybe via a rota week or something like that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ash. Wiseman asked, are there any plans to restrict polling on PvP Arena to accounts with a history of engaging in PvP content? Are you worried this poll might run into the same problem and issues like spike voting as other PvP polls had in the past?
Seems pretty likely to me. Plans have not been confirmed, but I think that's going to need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we're going to have a larger conversation about and then update you as once we know. Might be something we can add to the version 2 of the blog, but yeah, as Ash said, we're undecided on how we're going to go forward with this.
Really, that one's a bigger topic than the PvP arena. That one's a topic about how polling is done for old school RuneScape, something on which many players will have a very strong view. Now, the annual survey took place a few weeks back. I've not seen much from it, but one of the things that apparently came out was that most respondents agreed that poll results are better when only people who are familiar with the content are voting. And while that's a very big departure from the original ethos of all the old school community all together as one unified community, frankly I don't think that ethos has worked for years, and it's not going to do you the players any service if we keep pretending it could. So, and as I say, the survey respondents seem to think thought it was quite reasonable that we restrict who's voting on different things. After all, we've done it for Iron players before. We even did it first for something on PvP Worlds, where that vote was restricted only to people who'd clocked up some kills on PvP Worlds in a certain time period before the poll was announced. So that was, of course, trying to avoid people boosting for it as soon as they heard the poll was coming. So people have generally accepted it for the PvP Worlds thing, for Ultimate Iron Questions, Group Iron Questions. I'd hope that they'd be willing to extend the same courtesy to PvP content.
Yeah, I would hope so too. Ash is totally right, though. Polling as a general space is a lot bigger of a topic, and something we do want to look at. But yeah, bigger conversation, because technically all content is available to everyone, but not necessarily everyone wants to do that content. So how do you balance up between everybody that could potentially do it versus the people who actually do it? It's an interesting conversation to be had. Awesome. Well, go on, Ash, were you going to say something?
Of course. Sometimes you might cater to those who don't currently do something on the grounds that you're trying to address what stops them from doing it. However, I think the PvP arena is not that piece of content. It's not like we're, tweaking user frustrations about smithing to get more people to do more smithing. Speaking of which, there's a question in poll 76 about smithing, which I think a lot of people are going to like. But this, on the other hand, the PvP arena is, well, you're probably not going to go there unless you're into that sort of thing already, I suspect. So I think leaving the voting open to people who might get into having a try just doesn't feel like it would be such a benefit here.
Cool. Thank you all. The next question we have is from a no-name. Clan Wars is notably missing from the list of PvP zones that the rewards work in from the PvP arena. Is this an oversight or intentional? If the latter, could this be reconsidered?
Can't say for sure, but I'd guess it was unintentional and it will be added.
Okay, very straightforward. Thank you, Ash. Nicholas Greenberg asks, how will you deal with smurfing at different ranks?
I don't think that's confirmed yet, but I've covered previously how I believe the ranking will be working as you win and lose, and if somebody is trying to keep their rank artificially low but keeps winning all the time, I would expect them to find their ranking rising anyway.
Cool. Awesome stuff. We have two more questions regarding the PvP arena. The next one is from another no-name. Can the PvP arena be expanded on to include Edge style 1 versus 1 and not just prayer NH breeding? Also, the equalizer in stats devalues your account build somewhat. Could there also be a toggle to choose if you want to fight someone with your CB or someone with your exact stats?
Really is a shame Isa wasn't available for this one. I'm doing my best with all the PvP arena questions, but I'm somewhat out of my depth on this project at times. Anyway, I imagine that would be possible, although there's, as I was in a discussion with a player yesterday about edge style, the ability to teleport away mid-fight is not something the arena is likely to cater to. And while it may be able to expand into more types of fight, bear in mind that the more options we give within it for each fight, the less likely you are to find yourself matched against somebody who wants the same as you. And that really is going to dilute the pool of people you could be fighting. So, it's cool that you want it. Maybe it can be done, but I'm not going to go out there and make any promises on this stream. As for the toggle, given that it's taking place on separate worlds that use separate stats, I don't think it's going to have access to your real build. On the other hand, if you just want a casual fight against another person with your real stats, you should be able to have an unranked duel against them, and I don't see any reason why that would need to be restricted to the arena worlds. What we wouldn't necessarily want is people trying to have a ranked fight where suddenly their stats are part of it, because I don't think that would work out very well. The ranking's meant to be about your ability rather than your character's stats, I think. Especially if other people are choosing them for other ranked fights. Anyway, could be wrong about all this stuff, but I think that's what it'll be. But I think that's the case.
If you were allowed to fight with your own stats, the meta would be get your max cape first and then do PvP, which feels a bit excessive.
Well, that's at the risk of devaluing Nightmare Zone. Yeah, I'm willing to devalue Nightmare Zone somewhat.
Cool. Yeah, we appreciate you stepping in to answer these questions, Ash, with Aiza's absence. Cool. So the final question we have, which might not be something we can answer again with Aiza's absence, but in the PvP arena, fights take place in an alternate save game world. Your standard game profile is left behind. Will your F key presets be carried over from your standard profile in the PvP arena? If not, can they be remembered after setting them up once so you don't need to reset every time you enter?
No and yes, in that order.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Ash. I'm sure we will update the blog with that info when version 2 comes out as well. So
yeah. For what it's worth, I think they're going to apply to your appearance, given how those separate saves work. Which means that I know you might turn up on the arena world and find suddenly a ginger or something like that. I suppose we'd have to make sure there's some facility for you to customize that. It again would be remembered once you've done it, but do be prepared for unexpected arrival of a beard or mustache or dreadlocks or other aspects of your appearance that you may not have been expecting.
I feel like that adds to the fun of the arena, to be honest. Maybe it's just me, but awesome. All right, cool. So we've got a bunch of general questions next. So we will start with one from Some Spirit. What are your thoughts on doing an old school take on the mining and smithing rework? Currently, there's major problems in both. In mining, high-level rocks feel sort of pointless due to Motherlode Mine, and especially Runite rocks are heavily botted and almost impossible for legit players to mine. In smithing, the level balance is just awful. As an Ironman, by the way, I would absolutely love to smith gear for myself, but more often than not, by the time I can smith something, I've already surpassed that item completely.
Yeah, this comes up a lot within the team and within the community as well. I think people are generally in favor of it. Like, we know that the introduction of so many pieces of equipment over the years has really highlighted the gaps in smithing and raises questions about its usefulness and the pacing of it. I'd personally love to do a rework. I think it'd be a big improvement to be able to smith your equipment as you level up. It makes sense. It's more intuitive to new players, but it is a massive amount of work that potentially has knock-on effects across the entire game, not just within smithing. It will change supply of items, the pacing, the economy is going to be affected. It's a lot of work. And there are gaps to fill. When we reduce the level of all those items, we've got to fill that with something else. So that's a big undertaking. However, it would be a great opportunity to improve smithing and maybe introduce some mechanics and systems that are more interesting, build on that fantasy of being a blacksmith in a fantasy world, and look at ways to make smithing more important and worthwhile in the wider game as well. Maybe players could specialize and become a master smith in a particular field, which other players might want to seek out in some way to give them, make crafting more important in the wider game. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff we could do, and I'd definitely be in favor of reworking smithing.
I'm down as long as we do fletching at the same time. Minor gripe. I tried to make steel arrows in mainline RuneScape on my new account, and I couldn't because I didn't have the level. I had the smithing level in fletching to make steel tips. I didn't have the level to actually make the arrows, and it annoyed me to no end. Minor rant over.
So you're up for this huge project if and only if we do another skill with it.
I know, I'm saying just increase the scope a little bit. Get fletching in there as well.
Chuck crafting and fire making in there as well. I think we're all
Just
good.
do every skill. That's the worst that could happen.
Yeah, also, I might be wrong in my information here, but I'm pretty sure I remember someone saying that the RuneScape 3 rework took around 2 years. I could be wrong on that, but
I don't think they were programming it for the entire time. But I remember talking to Mod Jack at a Christmas party, probably 2016-17, and he was designing it then, and it came out. Well, it wasn't that year. I think they went through a lot of iterations before they got somewhere the community was happy for them to go. Old School could be an even more interesting challenge, given that along with the very, very clear design issues that things got, we also have a community that includes those who liked the game as it was, and they may feel quite strongly on some of these things. Depends, of course, on how big a plurality, minority, majority they turn out to be. Be an interesting poll, anyway.
Awesome, thank you guys. The next question we have is, once you use the observatory grapple shortcut for the first time, the rope stays forever, so you don't need to bring a crossbow and grapple in the future. Can this be done with all other grapple shortcuts in the game, since they are dead content as of right now?
Maybe
Sounds
put it on
reasonable, right?
Yeah. The main problem with questions like this is there are lots of small issues like this that we just have to decide what's actually worth doing at any given point in time. There's for Poll 76, we could have easily doubled, tripled the size of it of stuff we want to do. It's just getting the time to actually do it. And is there something more important we could be doing at the same time? Annoyingly,
I see the interest in this, all right, because lugging a crossbow and grapple around is very, very inconvenient. The thing is, having a use for crossbow and grapple is quite a nice thing. The fact that you need to make new grapples occasionally, I think it's one in 25 chats of them breaking. It keeps some use for that, and it would make it more dead content if we take out the need for them. But another way of going about this could be, like stash units. You put, they could work like leprechauns potentially. You store a crossbow and grapple by the shortcut. It's there when you want it. Should even be able to auto-equip the things when you click on it. So I expect that would be possible. Use it, store the thing at the other end, and it could be available at any shortcut like leprechauns work, or it could be a separate one for each shortcut. There's only about 8 of the things across the game that I can remember, so these could be alternative ways of going about it without deleting the need to supply the items.
Yeah.
And you just get that annoying one where the rope does actually break that one time, so you have to remember it's broken to bring a fresh one.
Well, if you could store more than one grapple / rope, then you'd have a stockpile of things in there, and yeah, they'd break over time. But you'd have plenty of warning before you ran out completely. That would be how I'd go about it. Even, of course, as the others say, time permits. Boy, is there a lot of stuff we could be doing. It's actually really frustrating being on these general Q&As where, one of the cool things I'd enjoy working on. But in the meantime, I've got to do these things, and there'll be another. We could probably keep the whole team busy for weeks with just the good stuff we see from one of these streams. So if it's frustrating to players who don't see their ideas coming into the game, however good they were, sometimes it's frustrating for us too, because we'd really enjoy having a go at more of them.
On the bright side, we get to work on other cool stuff at the same time, so
Yeah, because there's a lot in that list that includes this, that, you know, lots of little quality of life updates. But yeah, as we said, just resourcing and getting around to them whilst working on everything else is a very fine balance. But hopefully the polls, the way we're doing polls now, which is like smaller ones and a bit more frequent, will help to fix that a little bit. So
if poll 76 is a small one, I want to see a big one. It's got 27 questions on.
was it poll 75? I think had, maybe I'm wrong on this. I might have to do some looking, but
Over
like
50
odd
that.
questions. Yeah.
Nice. Well, the poll system as it stands can support 100, I think. We've never
that's
gone
a
much beyond.
challenge.
Yeah, that would be a big one. That would be a big one. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys. Maxi Max RS asked, historically, when the old school team has attempted to propose a new skill, they've handled everything from devising a premise to how to build on it, leaving the community to vote on rewards for the most part. Is it possible that you could try and get the community involved earlier into the making of process for a new skill? Perhaps starting with a blog outlining some brief prompts to see which one catches players' interest.
Well, that's very convenient. It's remarkably like what the head of community management was talking about after warding failed. As a strategy he thought might go better. Sorry, over to Squid.
No, sorry, that's great. I'm in agreement as well. I think it's important for us to look at getting that community feedback loop started as early as possible, and do it in stages, like present several high-level concepts that we come up with, get feedback from you guys, iterate on them if needed, dive deeper into the design of the popular ones, keep whittling it down like that until we land together on something that we, both us and the community, really like.
Yeah, if and when we do a new skill, it will probably be a very big joint effort between us and you guys. So yeah.
For what it's worth, that approach also help a bit with the nature of the feedback. See, a lot of what I was seeing while warding was under discussion was players shouting, "No one wants warding, no one cares about warding, why are you doing another draft of the warding blog? Take the message and nobody wants warding." And when we got to the poll, it turned out that a majority actually did want it. Even an unofficial survey I ran on Twitter had majority support for warding, and Twitter was relatively negative about it compared to other sites like Facebook and Reddit. So by starting by demonstrating, there is interest in the community for a skill, and their support for it being this sort of skill, it would actually prove that the team's time spent doing design blogs about it is time appropriately spent. And if, of course, the initial stages showed that players didn't want a skill or didn't want that kind of skill, then we know at that point and we wouldn't need to pursue the matter any further. It would let the feedback focus on the details of the skill a lot more, because we've already validated whether we should be talking about a skill at all. And I think we should, because, well, it sure does come up a bit, and all the ones we've pitched have had pretty decent support, even if it didn't quite get over threshold. So while 2022 is looking quite busy as it stands, I do hope we can see maybe the early stages of a process like Maximax is proposing.
Yeah, agreed. It's always about identifying that the difference between a general majority rather than a loud minority is that like defining thing. So yeah, hopefully with a process like this, if we are to do a new skill, it would, help to solve that issue. Cool. All right. Zandali asks, despite the addition of the new Slayer monsters to the wilderness, the Thammaron's Sceptre remains underwhelming and undesirable to use. With a focus on PvP updates, does Jagex anticipate making any changes to improve the state of the Sceptre?
In discussions I've had, kind of unofficial ones of course, players seemed generally up for it becoming able to auto-cast, have spells built into it that it can cast itself in the same way that a trident can. Alternatively, making it auto-cast Flames of Zamorak was another player suggestion. Didn't seem quite as exciting, as unique for it, given that other things can already autocast Flame to Zamorak. But I would be very glad for us to get to do either. The suggestions having autocasting Zaros spells from the Ancient Spellbook is a bit more iffy, because Thammaron was allied with Zamorak, and probably shouldn't be casting those Zaros spells. Lore does matter somewhat. So, yeah, I expect us to... maybe even the Wilderness Boss rework could be an opportunity to introduce an item that bolts onto your existing Sceptre to upgrade it into the more desirable thing. Or it could just be a straight buff, although I could expect a hell of a lot more merching around that approach.
I suspect even if you go for the Bolton upgrade, people are going to speculate on buying Thammarons anyway, so...
It's no secret that we've wanted to do something about the thing, and I do think that this year comes with projects that can be the moment.
Yeah.
Yep, well said, well said. Matt S. asks, will there be any consideration into improving the multiplayer aspect of older content? Specifically, I'd like to ask about multiplayer bossing. With the inclusion of bosses, these are great activities to do together, as everyone can contribute. Something like a group collection log for GIM.
Yeah, multiplayer and social is something I feel really strongly about, particularly in MMOs. And it's something that RuneScape kind of lacks a bit. It's often a solo experience. In fact, in some ways, it discourages playing with other people because you're contested for resources and things like that. So I'm personally really keen to look at improving social play in all content, not just old stuff. So that means avenues for meaningful emergent interactions, ability to play with your friends, even if there's a level difference, more group play support for general activities, more tools for socializing and hanging out with others, and just generally more support from the game to have meaningful experiences with other players. And we should look to do this with everything, not just Group Ironman. So yeah, a group collection log could be cool, but what about normal accounts? How does it work for them? And it's such a broad topic, so if you guys have ideas or specific issues that prevent group play, shoot me a tweet. I'll note them down.
For what it's worth, for normal accounts, when we were doing the clan system last year, I spent a fair while trying to work out how we could do a group collection log for those, because, things you've gathered while you were in the clan feels like a nice thing for a clan to be able to flex. Unfortunately, I could not think of a way in hell for making the clan data systems manage that. You can gather stuff on any world while you're playing normally, but then when you next go to your clan's home world, you sort of check in and deposit your record of what you've collected as part of the clan's data next time you check in on their home world. It felt really, really, frustratingly clunky, and we decided that with those limits around it, it would be best left for another time when it could be done better. Maybe that time will come, although for the moment it has not yet.
Just thinking about that, you'd essentially need a second collection log, and the collection log is not a small bit of codes in terms of like size and efficiency in the first place. I would not want to do it twice.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Another no-name question. Would it be possible to add skill cape hoods / capes to be compatible with their respective skilling outfits by using them on each other? Like how can you use Ava's on the range cape? An example would be adding the Spirit Angler set effect for Temporos to the Fishing Scape cape hood.
For the hood. I say, does the fishing outfit have a cape? And then, yeah. I believe this is another one for the backlog of good ideas. Because it fits into existing capes. Agility cape acts as graceful as well, so there is precedent for doing this.
I mean, we spoke about before, didn't we? Skill capes in general, there's a lot of weird differences between them, how they act and work and stuff. So yeah, I imagine it would be a whole lot of jobs to go through the skill capes.
If we could go through the backlog and group of all the ones to do with the skill cape, that would probably be like 5-6 questions on a blog, or a poll even. That seems like a reasonable mini update for skill capes.
Cool. All right, thank you, Kirby. The Darkest Timeliner 3417. I hope this isn't the Darkest Timeline. Is there any talk of updating for some of the older skilling guilds to be more in line with the standard current players have for guilds, aka woodcutting and farming? If so, can this be prioritized over adding new guilds to the game?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. For me, it raises the question of what is the role of skilling guilds. I don't have much experience with the farming guild, but for the woodcutting guild, I'm actually personally not a big fan of it. I think because without it, players would be spread around the world at various tree hotspots, intermingled with other players doing unrelated activities. It feels more natural, it feels alive. Theoretically, there's a higher chance of emergent interactions, though that doesn't tend to happen a whole lot in RuneScape. But with the woodcutting guild, the entire skill becomes everyone in one place doing the same thing, removed from the rest of the world. And the theme feels somewhat clinical and unnatural with all the trees in neat groups. And overall, I'm just not convinced it's the right direction for RuneScape and what we should be aiming to do. So I'm not against new guilds or reworking older guilds, but I think we need to consider what their role is in the skill in the wider game.
I think that's a fair point. Cool. Eden Stark asks, skilling bosses have been a massive success. Fishing has a boss, Temporos Firemaking has a boss, Wintertodd, and Runecrafting is having a fun way to level it up soon. Next in line for an update would be a skill like woodcutting, as it's highly obsolete and boring cutting trees all day. Love to see a woodcutting boss released in a future update, maybe in a city that is not used to get more players there, such as a desert city. Would this be something you would consider?
You chopping one weird ass cactus, if so.
Yeah, I'd love to give woodcutting more attention. And yeah, we could do a boss or mini games. I mean, you could do like the lumberjack games, log carving, axe throwing, speed cutting, scone eating, all the things that lumberjacks tend to do. But I think we should be also looking at the core gameplay of the skill and improving the moment-to-moment gameplay and choices you have in a natural way, rather than just jumping to instance content every time. So like woodcutting, maybe we could explore the forestry aspect of it, make actual chopping trees more dynamic. Perhaps there's a chance that like when you chop it down to a stump, it's a special type of event stump that can start you on an investigation through the forest to uncover special trees with magical mutations, like diseased trees, and heal those, uncover forest sprites, just like explore the woodcutter's connection to the forest and improve as you level up. So playing off exploration, elements of mastery that you can get better at the skill yourself, providing meaningful choices in woodcutting, maybe some social and group stuff in there as well. So yeah, I'm all for adding bosses and minigames, but I think there are other sorts of things we should consider as well, rather than just jumping straight to adding another boss.
If we see it as interesting, something more engaging than the standard find a tree, click on the tree, and the tree's gone, find other tree. It may have worked for the Lumberjack song where he does go to another tree, but we see this as a request for something that feels a bit more fun. I think there's a lot of scope for it. The Taiwan Eye cleanup may not be everyone's favourite piece of content, but you can imagine if that jungle had been so much more intense and you were actually trying to defend yourself from vines that were blocking you in on all sides, maybe coming out the walls of the environment you're in, and you were woodcutting for your life, a bit like how the volcanic mine is quite a dangerous mining activity. I think there'd have been scope to make something feel quite engaging about woodcutting, certainly compared to the chop down trees, move to another tree, which is the meta. And then, while a lot rather less imaginative, people do occasionally ask if we'll backport the evil tree.
I was going to make tree. I love the evil tree. I love it so much.
I didn't know that's the lumberjack on his evening out from that song.
I didn't know scone eating was a part of the lumberjack life, Squid.
If you listen to the song, it's quite clearly documented in there.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I might have to have another listen to it. Also, I'm stuck on the cactus boss idea, and all that I can think about is that cactus Digimon. Is it Togemon? The big boxing gloves from the original series. That's all I have in my head. Cool. Garwold asks...
Of course, the Jade Vine being something that you fought with an axe, but the only issue I ever had with the Jade Vine is that as the fight went on, it got easier because you chop more bits off it. That made sense, but I prefer a fight to get more exciting towards the end rather than less. Sorry, on to Garwold.
Awesome, thank you, Ash. Last man standing question. Free-to-play players can no longer obtain points. This makes the free-to-play items discontinued for free-to-play Ironmen. Can you allow free-to-play Ironmen to earn points in free-to-play worlds? Requiring a minimum total level game time and quest points requirement will make any free-to-play Ironman bot-in impractical, but will benefit the free-to-play Ironman community. Note that many people who have free-to-play Ironmen also have multiple members' accounts. Too many free-to-play Ironmen mentions there, but yeah.
It's not like the things become bot free even with the high skill total requirements around it for members. The same thing, but without the paywall, is unlikely to be better. I'm very sorry, but I do not think we're going to get to do this. Not unless, of course, bot detection can become a lot better than it currently is.
Also, I have seen free-to-play quests. I'm fairly sure I could write a bot to do free-to-play quests.
Tasty 5 points of Romeo and Juliet is not a... Cool. Kaneland96 asks, going off the recent Poll 76 blog about unique hitsplats for your max hit, would it be possible to do something like that for blocked attacks via protection prayers? So you'd have the normal blue 0 for regular misses and one that's a different shade to indicate that it missed due to praying correctly.
It would need a rewrite of some of the combat code because I believe it just counts a prayer as a miss currently.
Well, so in PVM it's inconsistent. Magic treats it like you splash off if the prayer was there. Ranged and melee let the hit land but change the damage. PvP's got something entirely different where it just reduces the damage. I don't see a problem with this in principle, but as Kirby says, yeah, we need to do a little rewriting. It's a lot better than it used to be, though. We've passed a lot more metadata through to the damage applying code in the last year. Husky and Elena and I worked on a lot of that for the combat achievements project, where it passes through, I think style of attack and also even the weapon used to do it, which is useful for some of those things. So I think the kind of rewrite we'd need for this is more manageable than it used to be. There is the awkward thing, though, that there's attacks out there where they modify the damage in different ways according to the prayer. Those are still individually scripted. This is mostly damage being done to you by bosses. Things in the Chambers of Xeric, for example. If players expected to see the splat modified for damage incoming on them from NPCs, that's a pretty chunky job. The other thing I'd note is we've got a lot of shades of hit splat for all the different types of damage in the game. Also the tinting thing to show which ones are yours and which ones are other people's. If the request is for a different shade again, that's even more variance based on this kind of thing. My suggestion would have been to change the graphic to be maybe a hit splat with a tiny little prayer star, the Star of Saradomin icon that represents prayer in a lot of places. A tiny one of those on it, on the corner of it, so that you could see that it was a hit splat modified by a prayer. And that way we don't have to go down even more colours. And for what it's worth, it's becoming awkward already to find some that are suitable for colourblind people. Of course, we didn't necessarily need there to be, damage done to a shield that reflects off it, and damage done to a totem that's being charged upwards and damage done to a totem that's being charged downwards. That's got us through a lot more colours than we might otherwise have had. And then there's disease for everyone who ever goes near a bloody Zoga.
If we just remove disease overnight, do you think anyone would care?
Well, Grish would be very sad about the Gluglugs that he can no longer sell for the 60s Zogas or whatever it was. I struggle with some of the names in Mod Titan's content, but
Understandable.
He pushed a lot of boundaries with that, including on things I'm willing to pronounce.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've got an extra 5 minutes, so I'm going to try and get through as much as we can. I know we've got a couple of answers from Mod Arcane. So the next question we have is from Redstorm86. Can we get additional Books of the Dead? Losing it and having to reclaim it before each wielding outing is annoying.
I'd expect so.
I'm trying to think of a reason why you shouldn't be able to have multiple, and I'm struggling.
I don't think it stores data on itself, so I don't see a tech hurdle coming up.
To my favourite resource for all development, the old school wiki. Cardiff's memoirs. I forgot about that detail. Maybe.
Well, it stores the page. It remembers which pages are in it on a player variable. Yeah. So I'd hope that wouldn't become a problem for us. Yeah.
It's doable. It'd just be a kind of weird because we're allowing you multiples of an object that theoretically you should only have one of, but it should be fine. TM.
Another potential for the list.
Yes.
Add it on there. Runner 5678 asks, can task storage be updated / improved? Can it be free to store a task? Currently, if you want to grab a skeleton or lizard man task for CMs but do regular Slayer on the side, you need to spend points to store it. Then it's free to unstore, but then when you go back to Slayer, it's more points to store it again. Kind of difficult to use for that purpose. Same idea for storing Vorkath, Hydra, etc. It'd be much more appealing to do a portion of the task, then store it without penalty. It's 1k points to unlock. It could use a buff.
See, I devved it, but I didn't pick the numbers. I was in the discussion when we picked the numbers. I just can't remember why we picked them. Theoretically, they are numbers. They could just be changed. One for the list of maybes, unfortunately.
Maybes. No.
I hope it's still better than what you had before the feature was there, even if it's not as nice as it could be if it were free.
Cool. All right. Thank you, guys. Right, we've got 3 questions about Nex. I'm just going to run through them because we've got some answers from Mod Arcane. So, first question, is there any way we could mute Nex so she doesn't clutter up the chat box? Mod Arcane says, there is no escape. Just kidding. This could be looked at, but it depends if it is a message from Nex or a standard game message. We can potentially filter standard game messages out. The next one we have is from Chaosike. Is the next unique drop rate now set in stone? It seems like a lot of people are very unhappy about the time it takes to receive drops from a very resource-intensive boss. And that was briefly brought up in a previous stream, but was shot down saying that it would be bring too much GP into the game, which makes no sense at all. More drops would just decrease the price of the uniques and not bring more GP into the game. The coughs in chat, they distracted me for a second. Mod Arcane says the time to get all the uniques except for the hilt is not out of the line from most other content. We would say it is fair or balanced when comparing it to other content, especially considering the power level of the uniques she offers. However, there is a point of view that even with this being true, group bosses like Nex should not have so many uniques with such low drop rates. In hindsight, Nex should probably have had less uniques that were more common, decreasing the unique's power, but also decreasing the time for completion. This isn't something we can really fix in an ideal way now. To alleviate the issue, decreasing the drop rates marginally could help. We would need to collect more feedback for determining this. And the final one is Nex drops loot to all players in the instance as opposed to whoever did the most damage. Will this be the new standard for bosses moving forward? And Mod Arcane has said group bosses do not have any ideal way of dropping loot for all account types. Only dropping loot for the most damage either makes it boostable or completely stops Ironmen from doing the content. The current implementation is the most fair and balanced one we could think of. Mod Arcane agrees it's not necessarily the most fun or nice though. We may need to reevaluate group bosses as a whole when it comes to considering Iron game modes. Alright, we have 3 more questions. It'd be good to get through them. I know we don't have a lot of time, but Patty is super cool. Asked, there is an unavoidable death situation of Phosani's Nightmare where if Nightmare uses husks, right, when you last hit the last pillar, you won't have enough time to deal with the husk and the sleepwalkers after. This usually means you'll have to teleport or get hit for 99. Would it be possible to change it so that Nightmare cannot summon Husk when 1 tower remains, or maybe the Husk can despawn during the Sleepwalker phase?
I'm going to institute a ruling of get good. There are at least some attacks between every special attack. If you're worried about this, you can just wait out until the special attack go, okay, this is not a Husk attack, I can clear the final pillar. It's a hard boss to deal with it. It feels a bit rude to say it like that, but it's true.
Okay, cool. Get good apparently is the stance.
There is obvious counterplay here. Just wait for the special attack.
I can definitely ask Arcane anyway, because I know he's definitely involved in Nightmare. So I'll bring it up with Arcane and we'll see. Unknown string 1111. Can emergency teleport shard functionality be added to Zalcano? Since teammates are there, they can save you from disconnect deaths just like TOB.
That sounds appropriate.
Yeah, alright. That's another one to the list.
Yeah.
Alright, and the final question we have is from Nox Caliber. What do you think of being able to spend Slayer points to prefer certain Slayer tasks in the same way we can block specific tasks?
What you do is you put all of your preferences on everything you can burst, and you just get insane Slayer rates. I see exactly what is going, and fair play to you for wanting it, but I'm going to have to decline, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So, appreciate the...
Good try. Good try.
Are they going to ask again after they got that?
I mean, probably.
We'll see in next week's Q&A if it comes up again. All right, cool. Thank you for all the questions. We really appreciate it. I'm just going to run through the announcements and we will say our goodbyes. So, poll 76. Poll 76 has been updated and is now live in game. Read all about it in the Poll 76 blog and remember to cast your vote before the poll closes on the 22nd of February. PvP Arena. The Caridian Emir has been made aware of illicit activity going on in the glorious old battlegrounds known as the Jewel Arena. Check out the proposed concept for the revamped arena, included tournaments, rankings, and rewards. Game update. This week's game update brings Old School's 9th birthday event. Check out all of the info on this event, including these gnarly new desert skis. You can't use them down the slope. All right, for those people asking, and we're not going to change that. It's not going to be done. They're sand skis for a reason.
They were just free to break.
Yeah, they are sand skis, right? They're specifically designed for sand. Along with all the latest changes and fixes. And finally, stream summary. Last week we had our very first launch live stream. We talked all about the processes of developing quests, gods in future quests, and of course the Dorkshan quest line series. In case you missed it, there's a handy transcript linked in the command. So, thank you all very much for watching. I want to thank Mods Druid, Mods Light behind the scenes. I want to also thank Mods Squid, Ash, and Kirby for joining me on this Q&A live stream. Have you guys got any final words before we say goodbye?
I mean, I can rickroll people again if you want me to.
I mean, maybe in the next holiday event, maybe Kirby.
Awesome. production threatening to mute me, so I think I'll give that one a miss.
Panic by tuna.
There you go. Panic by Tuna it is. Okay, with that, have a lovely evening all wherever you are, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.